In 1922, a 15-year-old boy started working at a small auto repair shop in Tokyo. The owner assigned him to clean the workshop and take care of his child, doubting if he was cut out for the business. Little did they know that this boy, Soichiro Honda, would go on to compete with some of the biggest car brands in the world and own the largest motorbike manufacturer. This is the story of how a poor Japanese boy went from babysitting children to building the multi-billion-dollar brand with Honda Motors. Hello, namaste, friends. Welcome to my channel. Let's learn new today. Raised in poverty. About Honda's childhood. Soichiro Honda was born in 1906 in Tenryu, Shizuoka, at the foot of Mount Fuji, a poverty-stricken village in Japan. He was the eldest son of Geihei Honda, a blacksmith who also repaired bicycles, and his wife, who was a weaver. Growing up, Soichiro faced many economic challenges and lost 5 of his siblings due to health issues. When Soichiro was 8 years old, he heard a strange rumble that grabbed his attention, which had 4 wheels, and that was a Ford Model T for the first time, and he became fascinated with the car and how it worked. He spent much of his childhood helping his father repair bicycles and farm machinery, and he taught himself how to fix engines and motors. Soichiro did not enjoy school and struggled with his grades. To avoid his father's disappointment, he forged his family's stamp on his report cards, but he eventually got caught and was punished. In 1922, Soichiro saw an advertisement for a Tokyo-based automobile servicing company called Sokhai. He wrote to them inquiring about a job and received a positive response. At 15 years old, Soichiro dropped out of school and left home to work for Sokhai in Tokyo. Working for Sokhai allowed Soichiro to gain experience and knowledge about automobiles. Sokhai. When he arrived in the city, he was overwhelmed by the fast pace of city life compared to his quiet village. Fortunately, the shop owner, Yuzo Sakakibara, had a job for him, babysitting his child. However, Soichiro was disappointed to find that he wasn't making any money and was only tasked with carrying the baby around on his back. He only stayed because he didn't want to return home a failure and face his parents. As time passed, Sakakibara couldn't keep up with the high demand of his automobile business, and he finally pulled Soichiro in to help him out. Although Soichiro started out doing menial tasks, he gradually climbed his way up until he became a trusted mechanic at the company. His talent and dedication caught the attention of Sakakibara, who took him under his wing and taught him not only mechanical repairs, but also the business side of the company. Through Sakakibara's repair work, Soichiro quickly became familiar with a wide range of automobiles, including foreign-made cars such as Lincolns, Mercedes, Daimlers, and even various motorcycles. He poured everything he had into expanding his knowledge and understanding of his craft. It was through this company that Soichiro was introduced to the world of motorsports. In 1923, Sakakibara began to build racing cars with the help of his workers, including Soichiro. Their first model was the Daimler, built using a second-hand Daimler engine. Their second model was the Curtiss, made using another second-hand engine from an American Curtiss biplane placed on the chassis of another American car, the Mitchell. This car would go on to race in the 5th Japanese Motor Car Championship in 1924. Taking a stunning first position with Sakakibara's brother as the driver and Soichiro as the accompanying engineer. It was a special experience for the 17-year-old boy, and from then on, motorsports became his religion. On his own. In 1923, Sakakibara and his workers, including Soichiro, built 2 racing cars, the Daimler and the Curtiss. The Curtiss was made using a second-hand engine from an American Curtiss biplane and the chassis of a Mitchell car. It went on to compete in the 5th Japanese Motor Car Championship in 1924, winning first place with Saka's brother as driver and Soichiro as engineer. This special experience for the 17-year-old boy sparked a lifelong passion for motorsports. In 1928, Yuzo Sakakibara opened a branch of Sokhai in Hamamatsu, appointing 21-year-old Soichiro Honda as its manager. Despite initial struggles, Soichiro eventually grew the business to a staff of 30 by the 1930s. He was a brilliant mechanic and prodigious racing driver, setting a speed record of 120 kilometers per h in his Hamamatsu race car in 1932. However, in 1936, he was involved in a serious accident while racing the car and decided to never race again. He moved on to manufacturing car parts and founded the Tokai Seiki heavy industry, making his close friend Shichiro Kato its president. Trail and error. Soichiro and Kato toiled relentlessly in their new venture and established the Art Piston Ring Research Center. Soichiro continued to work at his Hamamatsu branch, spending his days in the repair workshop and his nights developing pistons. Despite their efforts, they faced many obstacles in the first couple of years, and Soichiro's relentless work caused him to lose weight and look emaciated due to the stress on his body and mind. After several unsuccessful attempts, Soichiro decided to enroll as a part-time student at the Hamamatsu Industrial Institute to enhance his knowledge of metallurgy. Finally, in 1939, he created a working piston, which enabled him to quit his job at Art Sokhai and concentrate on his new company, Honda. However, his initial creations were still flawed, and out of the 50 pistons he submitted to Toyota, only 3 met the quality standard. Nonetheless, Soichiro persevered and spent the next few years traveling around Japan, visiting steel-making companies and universities to enhance his understanding of piston ring manufacturing. His efforts paid off, and he began to receive orders from all over the country. The company employed approximately 2,000 people to keep up with demand. However, the Pacific War in 1941 led to the company being placed under the direct command of the Ministry of Munitions, and Toyota took over 45% of the company's equity in the following year. Soichiro was demoted from president to senior managing director, and many male employees resigned as they were drafted into military service. Despite his best efforts to keep his company afloat, Soichiro faced more challenges in the future. The year 1944 marked a turning point for Japan as air raid sirens intensified, and the country was on the brink of defeat. In the midst of the chaos, Soichiro's company in Hamamatsu was hit by a direct bomb blast, destroying the factory. The company suffered yet another misfortune in January 1945 when the Nankai earthquake shook the region and caused the Iwata plant to collapse. Japan ultimately surrendered in August 1945, but Soichiro had nearly lost everything by then. He sold what was left of his company to Toyota for 450,000 yen and announced that he needed time off to determine his future plans. Japan was left in ruins, and a year after the war, the country was hit by an economic meltdown that threatened the lives of its citizens. Soichiro struggled to find enough resources to provide for his family, but one day, he came across a generator engine that had been used by the Japanese Imperial Army to power up a wireless radio during the war. He saw the potential for this engine to be attached to a bicycle, a common practice in Europe, and realized that Japan needed cheap transportation. In 1946, he established the Honda Technical Research Institute with a staff of 12 men to develop a motorbike. Using spare parts and engines, they successfully built their first motorbike, which was an instant hit, and orders poured in from all over the country. Soichiro designed and developed his own engine, the Taipei engine, which bore the Honda name for the first time in 1947. Soichiro Honda founded the Honda Motor Company in 1948 with the initial goal of building motorcycles to provide cheap transportation to Japanese workers. However, he needed more money to expand his production. So he wrote an open letter to all 18,000 bicycle shop owners in Japan, telling them he had a solution to get Japan moving again. Out of those stores, he received positive responses from 3,000 of them, and they provided him with the money he needed to start making his first shipments. A year later, the company produced its very first complete motorcycle, the Model D. Although this was a big achievement for Honda, the Model D was too big and heavy, and only a few people bought it. Soichiro wasn't satisfied with this, so he stripped down the motorbike and worked long hours to make another bike that was smaller and lighter. After 3 years of trial and error, he succeeded in building another motorcycle and named it the Super Cub, which was an instant hit. This success prompted Honda to join forces with investor Takeo Fujisawa, who provided the capital and financial and marketing strategies to help the company expand. The Super Cub reached the United States in 1958 with a sticker price of just $295, a quarter of the price of other American motorcycles. Thanks to Honda's marketing and engineering skills, it soon outsold both Triumph and Harley-Davidson in their respective home markets. Honda also expanded into the racing world, using racing as a platform to showcase their motorcycles to the world. Chasing his childhood dreams. When Soichiro Honda announced his intention to enter the automobile market, he faced warnings that it was too risky and that the company would be better off sticking to motorcycles. At that time, Japan already had Nissan, Toyota, and a few other major players competing in the challenging world of the automobile industry. Japanese officials even tried to persuade Soichiro that the country did not need another car manufacturer, but he ignored their arguments. In 1963, Honda released its first automobile, the T360 mini truck, but it failed to gain much traction. The company's first sports car, the S500, followed soon after. While it was a smaller car, it was smooth and easy to drive, capable of reaching 80 miles per hour. Unfortunately, only around 1,300 units of this model were built, making it one of the rarest Honda cars ever made. Despite its early success in the racing world with the Honda RA271, the company struggled to compete with its rivals in the car market. To shift its focus, Honda developed the Honda Civic in 1972, which became one of the most popular cars in the world, especially in Europe and America, due to the oil crisis of the 1970s. The Honda Civic featured a brand new method for fuel management called the Compound Vortex Controlled Combustion, CVCC, which allowed people to travel further distances with their cars without burning too much fuel. Honda also addressed the pollution problem caused by exhaust gases by adding a catalytic converter to its vehicles, which other automakers did not consider at that time. The Honda Accord, initially released as a compact hatchback, also became popular as a fuel-efficient, moderate-sized sedan. By the end of the 1980s, the Honda Motor Company became the third-largest car company in the world. Soichiro Honda retired in 1973 and passed away on August 5, 1991. Today, Honda has expanded into multiple industries, including jets, boat engines, power equipment, and robots.